Does everybody here have one of these? A phone? Can we like raise them in the air for a second? All your cell phones. All your cell phones. Everybody got a cell phone? Almost everybody's got a cell phone. Every battery and every cell phone and iPad made in the world has a connection to my home. Every one of them. Because the chemical that makes the battery is manufactured at the end of my street at a plant called Langston's. Think of all the cell phones in the world. Every one of them are made there. The Red Cross, the American Red Cross, said 80% of every chemical manufactured in the planet has a connection to my home. Let that number sink in. 80% of every chemical in the world. This carpet is made of chemicals. The ceiling tiles are made of chemicals. Our clothing has chemicals. All of that is tied to my home. The National Geographic called my home the most polluted spot in North America. That's worse than anything that's in Mexico, and I've been to Mexico. Anybody been to Mexico? Looks like you're going to bounce off the air when you're landing. Well, we're worse.
Oh, wow.
The World Health Organization last September called us the most contaminated airshed in Canada.
Where do you live?
3 hours from here, Sarnia.
Sarnia.
My community is called Aamjiwnaang. You were close. Been massacred by the best of them. We're the sacrifice zone. Everybody's worried about Keystone, and everybody's worried about the Northern Gateway. Everybody's worried about the tar sands and the boreal and fracking. It all ends in my home. Everything ends in my home. I look at the world through how many people know what a dream catcher is?
Yeah.
You all see one, all the hands go up. There's two stories to a dream catcher. There's the truth and there's a myth. All right? The myth of it catching the dreams and goes through the webbing and the good dreams drip off, that was created to sell dream catchers, and it does a really good job. The truth of the dream catcher is it was made to hang off the cheek noggin or cradle boards. And it resembled a spider's web, so when the women were tending to their chores, they leaned the teak noggin on a tree, this hung in front of the baby, and the bugs thought of it like a spider web and they would avoid it. And the knickknacks that were hung off it entertained the baby. It had nothing to do with dreams. But that doesn't sell dream catchers, and if you want to buy one in Heathrow, you've got to buy the story. So we'll deal in the story. But I'm going to twist the story a little bit and make the story about the petrochemical industry. So the petrochemical industry has this great big dream catcher, and you can all picture that dream catcher. Instead of a nice willow or something going around the outskirts, is of course a pipe. And around that pipe flows down to these feathers that drips profits into the various people involved in the petrochemical industry. And they go around undisturbed. But the oil, before it comes to that pipe, or the petrochemical industry, goes through the webbing. And in that webbing, it filters out all of the things that it doesn't want to have to deal with, like accountability and health impacts. Like the raping of the land and the damage to the people that the land belongs. That's the dream catcher. And when you get to the very center of that dream catcher, you see a little hole in the center. That's Aamjiwnaang. We catch all of the nightmares of the petrochemical industry. We're the black hole. Everything is there. There are thousands upon thousands of pipes that stretch from South Los Angeles to Toronto to the East Coast. Right now, last week, they approved Line 9, which runs through my home. But nobody heard about Line 9, because David Suzuki doesn't like it.
No, we heard.
We heard, yes. But I'm with the group of the converted here. I'm with the converted. So in that dream catcher, I'm in that hole with a young lady named Ada Lockridge, and Ada and I did everything that we've done in Aamjiwnaang to get to where we are. And we're yelling from deep within of that hole. We're talking about a birth ratio skewing that is the first in the world. We have 2 girls born for every boy.
Wow.
That was the first in the world. When that got announced in Environmental Health Perspectives, I got approached by universities and magazines around the world. We've been featured in every major magazine in the world. 11 documentaries, right there. Dorothy made a documentary called Toxic Trespass. Ask her about it, buy it, watch it. It's on YouTube, it's everywhere. On our community. The Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Sun, the National Post, Chatelaine, Discovery, CNN, Men's Health, I can go on and on and on and on and on, are the publications that came to my little community because of this birth ratio skewing. It's never been documented before anywhere in the world.
Wow.
So they bring me down to the University of California, San Francisco, and I do this talk, just like I'm doing to you now. And there's 120 of the preeminent reproductive specialists on the planet there. And they tell me that that's the first sign of extinction.
Oh, great.
If you can't reproduce, you die. After the Aamjiwnaang story gets out, then a guy in Greenland did a further study. He went around the Arctic Circle and he found that the birth ratio skewing was happening up there. More research was done on North America and Asia, and it found that the birth ratio skewing is happening everywhere. I really hate the expression, the canary in the coal mine, but chirp fucking hurt. We're it. We're dying. We are the first sign of extinction. That's my home. That's 3 hours from here. And it's not mentioned anywhere. Line 9 got passed this week, and as the environmental policy analyst, I advised the 7 chiefs of the 7 communities in our territory about what to do and how to react. And they don't have a clue. They don't know anything about Line 9 because it's not in their package. They're worried about housing. They're worried about feeding their people. They're worried about health. They're worried about all of the things that they have to worry about. The petrochemical industry is not on the forefront of that. Neither's fracking. Neither's the boreal forest. Neither's the tar sands. But I draw it all into Aamjiwnaang in this way. If you want to stop the damage to the boreal forest, anybody been to the boreal? I've been a part of the Boreal Learning Network since it began. I've been crisscrossing the north of Canada, trying to convince the forestry industry to do business right. Well, if you want to stop those forests from being cut down, stop the pipes from coming to Aamjiwnaang from northern Alberta, because that's where all the pipes are coming from. Nova Chemicals just spent billions with a B dollars converting one of its 4 plants in Sarnia to completely process shale gas.
Oh.
You want to stop fracking? Come to Sarnia. Right now there's 225,000 barrels a day of bitumen that's processed in my home, right beside my community.
Wow.
One street, just like that building away. You want to stop the tar sands? Come to Sarnia. Why are we sending people out west? Why are we sending people up north? Why won't Suzuki come to my home? Or Pollution Probe? Or Environmental Defense? Or World Wildlife? Or Greenpeace? Why? Why don't they want to come and see me? Suzuki came to the casino and spoke at the casino for 25 grand. He wouldn't travel 3 miles to meet Ron, and he knows Ron. Why? Because all of those people draw money from foundations who have investments in the petrochemical industry, as sure as I'm standing right here. I had a talk today with the Law Foundation of Ontario. Google them, good organization. I had another talk with the Catherine Donnelly Foundation, a very, very strict religious foundation, again a good foundation. I've had talks with the Canadian Environmental Grant Makers Associations. They all tell the same story. They have a limited pool of money to dole out for this work. And they dole out, let's say, 5% of their budget every year. Well, they have to recoup that 5%, or they're going to eventually end up out of a job, aren't they? So they invest in the market. And they try to invest as smartly as they can, but they buy mutual funds that end up having ties to the tar sands, or mutual funds who end up having ties to extraction industries. You can't help it. We've had this conversation, Dorothy and I, because as careful as I am, I can't tell my pension fund what not to invest in. I try to. I lobby them, and I hope that they listen, but that's all I can do. So I'm tied to it. My dad worked at Dow. Everything in our life has been tied to it. My dad died at Dow. That's why I do what I do. Everybody on my dad's shift died. On one of the films, I believe it's Toxic Trespass, where you have Sandy Kennard talking about the afternoon shift is over here in the graveyard, and the day shift is over there.
Oh.
They're all buried together. They work together. They live together. They know each other. This is where I live. It's 3 hours from here. So I look at what I do as kind of pushing a noodle up a hill. I'm 50 years old. I got a 5-year-old girl an 8-year-old boy and a 26-year-old girl. I'm not going to fix the problem. We're not going to fix the problem. We're pushing that noodle up a hill. Collectively, we're all pushing that noodle up a hill. But we have Harper, we have industry, we have strong, strong unions. I know you're all pro-union, but those unions wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the petrochemical industry, because they're all invested in it. Whether they stand and admit that or not, they're all invested in it. How do we win? I love coming here. Every time I come here, Dave and I have this conversation all the time, because I want to go to Clarkson. I want to go to Oshawa. I want to go to Vaughan. I want to talk to the people that don't come to this room. Because you guys get it. That's why you're here. You gave up a beautiful Monday night to come here. Those people up there look at us as radicals, as hippies, and to use Harper's words, we're terrorists. And we are. In every true sense of the word, we threaten the very foundation of what he has built. That makes us a terrorist, in his view. What can we do? I heard talks about elections. I run in every election. I don't ever intend on winning, but I stand up to say my piece, because John and Jane Q. Canadian have no idea. They sit in their home, they're worried about their jobs, they're worried about paying their bills, they're worried about their kids, they're worried about drugs, they're worried about everything that we're all worried about with our kids. And it's overwhelming to them. Something is wrong with all of us because we make the time to do this. We took on that social conscience, that little bug inside of us that just wouldn't stop gnawing at us. So we had to go, and we had to find others like us so that I could vent. And you go, man, I get it. I get it. You know, I have to sit with government, and I have to sit with industry, and I have to sit with political organizations that do everything wrong. But I have to sit at that table. That's my job. So I need to come here. We need to come here. We need to fuel ourselves. This is what I look at this as. Oh, all right, man, I'm good for another couple of weeks. Let's go. That's what I want you to do. I want you to run for office. I want you to tell Rob Ford to get the hell out of business.
That's right.
But he's not going to do that unless you do it. You know, how are we going to change Harper when John Q. Canadian just put him back in there? As illegal as that election was, and as illegal as the whole process was, we can bitch and scream all we want, but we got him for another 4 years.
Oh, not necessarily.
You know, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep doing this. We got good politicians out there. I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but we have good politicians out there. We have people that we all know and support, like Elizabeth May and Mike Layton. We need these people to speak for us, and they can't speak for us unless we're fueling ourselves every day. I'll end it really quickly by saying this. Somebody posted this on my wall today, and you gotta love Facebook for this, but the world is not dying, it's being killed, and those who are killing it have names and addresses, so let's go get them. I love it. Thank you.